Kamiwaza, a Japanese word that has no direct translation in English, but the closest you could get is godlike or superhuman skill. It's a word I learned listening to the marketing genius Seth Godin. Kamiwaza is not about perfection. It's not a concept built around flawlessness, nor is it art without fault. Instead, it is about the relentless pursuit of excellence, a quest to always improve and be better. Kamiwaza is, in my opinion, the most noble of all pursuits. You might be wondering why I've chosen to share this with you today. Now that's a good question. It's certainly a reasonable question, one I hope to clear up quite quickly over the next minute or two. Would you describe yourself as an artist? Does your work make you an artist? Be honest now and don't kid yourself. Unless you draw, paint, stitch, craft, sing, or sew, you will have likely said no to that question, and in the classical, most traditional of senses, you'd be almost correct. When we think about art, we think primarily about beauty, but if we explore it and ask ourselves, is beauty really the point of art, or is it something much more fundamental than that? Art is an expression of humanity. The things we commonly think of as art are just the medium. The art is the expression. The art is the humanity that goes in. The art is the process itself. But the art means nothing if it doesn't ship. That's one of the things that Seth Godin talks a lot about in his books. And it's a concept which I spend a lot of time thinking about, especially as a marketer. One of the most prolific authors of the modern age is the master himself, Stephen King. In April 1974, King published his first novel. That novel was Carrie. That novel very nearly ended up not getting published at all. In fact, King had already thrown it out. When you look at the cultural and social impact that Carrie had had over the years, as well as the reach of that story, it's difficult to deny that it's an incredibly successful novel, especially somebody's first novel. In many ways that cannot be measured, and many that can, it's probably one of the most successful and important novels of all time. The world did not yet know or understand the almost limitless talents and abilities of the King, Stephen King, at the time. I don't honestly believe that King did either. It just goes to show that ignorance before the fact has no bearing on impact after the fact. It was Tabitha King, Stephen's wife, that recognised Carrie for what it truly was. It was Tabitha who recognised that Carrie was the beginning of how Stephen would express himself to the world. She recognised the humanity he'd poured into that work. And she recognised that now the work needed to ship to become art. By taking the manuscript out of the bin, planting it down in front of Stephen again, and telling him to send it out just one more time, she managed to be the catalyst for great change in their lives. Beyond that, change rippled into the lives of anybody who ever picked up a Stephen King novel from that moment forward. It was in that moment when Tabitha pulled the manuscript from the bin that Stephen King truly became an artist. He expressed himself in his humanity. He then shipped that expression, and when the expression reached the hands of its audience, it had an impact on their lives too. True art happens when beauty meets utility, and it is shipped. When you keep your art hidden from the world, you prevent any chance of utility. This in itself means that it is no longer art, which by proxy dictates it is no longer an expression of you, and that your humanity has been stripped from the work. To be an artist is to apply your humanity to your work and to ship. Every time you have a positive interaction with the customer, you are creating art. Every time you leave a lasting impression, you are creating art. Every time you go beyond the blueprint and include your head and your heart, you are an artist creating the next masterpiece. Art is an experience, more specifically, a shared experience. Every interaction you have with another human being is a potential opportunity to craft a positive and meaningful experience to share with another human.